Hello, I'm Mr. Vore. I teach American literature, honors, academic, and standards. I'm going to read some questions and answer them for you today. How did you meet your wife? I met my wife at summer camp. It was a Christian sports camp in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, called Summer's Best 2 Weeks. My wife went there as a camper, but I did not meet her as a camper. I went there when I was in college. I started as a counselor then, and my wife went back after she graduated from college. And by chance, by fortuitous chance, we happened to be co-counselors on the kitchen crew together, which is the only part of camp. This was a camp that was very intent on keeping blue and red separate, no purpling. And so the kitchen crew was really the only place where like guys and girls mixed at all, and this really included counselors too. My wife was dating another guy at the time called Rusty. And I did not know Rusty, he was not at the camp as well. But when I heard about him initially, like she'd gone back over the weekend to go visit Rusty at home, my hope was that Rusty was a dog, because I thought that would be a good dog name. Also, I didn't want her to have a boyfriend, because pretty much as soon as I met her, I knew that's the person I want to marry. And so Rusty turned out to be human. But over the course of our 2 weeks on kitchen crew together, and then letters that we wrote over the course of a year, I convinced her that Rusty was a bad choice and a terrible name for a person who could be your future husband, and that Ben was a better name for a future husband. And so after writing letters for a year, living in separate cities, we were both living in Nashville, and that's how we eventually got married, which was not exactly the question that was asked. However, I elaborate a little bit more. What are the most desirable traits in a student for you? I love students who are curious. School is a game, and with all games, you figure out the rules, you figure out what the expectations are, and it's easy to sort of play the game of school so you can get good grades, as long as you're willing to work hard. Knowing that that's sort of part of what school is, I love students who don't look at school as just that, but look at school as, I genuinely want to come in and I want to discuss, and I want to learn, and I'm not afraid to ask a question I don't know the answer to, or to say something out loud that might be wrong, because I was the kind of student in high school who was deathly afraid of saying anything unless I was confident, one, it was the right answer, and two, it made me sound smart. And as a result, I barely said anything ever in high school, because I don't have that many thoughts that check both of those boxes. So students who can come in and be themselves, and just genuinely curious and ask questions, and help me see and understand literature in a new way, because I believe all of us bring unique qualities and experiences to the text we read together. That to me is probably the most desirable trait, along with being just diligent, attentive, hardworking, kind to one another. School is a hard, competitive place to be, and I think understanding and being empathetic with other people, whether they're fellow students or teachers, is an admirable trait as well. What is the funniest thing that has ever happened to you? I don't know if this is the funniest thing, but it's embarrassing. I wet myself in first grade taking a spelling quiz with Mrs. Thornton. I was a very diligent student, and so we were sitting in class taking this vocab or spelling quiz, and it was 20 words, and I got to about 13, and I realized I really had to pee. And so I thought, nope, gotta hold it, spelling quiz. And then by the time we got to 15, I knew that I had to go. So I raised my hand. Mrs. Thornton said, "What has it been?" And I said, "Miss Thornton, I really have to use the restroom." And she said, "Is it an emergency?" In such a way that convinced me that not even like World War III was going to be a sufficient reason to interrupt a spelling exam. So I said no, and then by the time I got to word 16, I had wet myself. And needed my mom to bring in a new pair of sweatpants for me, because I was rocking the sweatpants in first grade. So I don't know if that was the funniest thing, but it's something that stuck in my mind and something that made my classmates laugh. Also something that my classmate Ben Langston, who we weren't really friends, but later that day when we were sitting on the carpet for like reading sharing time, Ben Langston sat down next to me, which was unusual, and he said, what you did earlier today was really cool. And that just made me feel a little bit better about myself. That was really the only time I ever talked to Ben Langston after that. What sports did you play in junior high and high school? I played biddy soccer from the ages of 8 to 9. I had a one-year illustrious career playing biddy soccer. I played basketball in junior high and then intramurals in high school. That was a sport I wanted to be good at. However, I was 5'6", probably 110 pounds. So was not, and I went to a school that was a lot like Sycamore, big public school, and it was just very competitive on sports teams. So because I was a little undersized for my grade, I didn't play basketball very long, but I loved playing rec basketball. I was a gym rat. I did play baseball. I played shortstop for the high school team, and that was my first love of a sport. I also, when I stopped playing basketball, began bicycling more. My dad bicycled across the country when I was in 9th grade, and I joined him for 2 days when he was in Ohio. We biked 50 miles each day, and bicycling became sort of my true love as I got older, and that's what I did in college a lot as well. So that was the other sport that I played as well. If I could do it again, I would run cross country. Although I'm thankful that I have like more knee cartilage now because I didn't run when I was in high school, but if I could do it all over again, I would run track and cross country. Did I have an imaginary friend as a kid? I feel like the more interesting answer would be yes. However, the answer is no. However, I did sort of talk to myself a lot and imagine. I remember as a kid frequently sort of thinking that I was always being interviewed on television, being like, you did great on that science quiz today. What were you thinking? What was going on in your head while you took that quiz? And so then I would always have that running kind of dialogue. So not an imaginary friend, but I often imagined myself in scenarios where basically I was famous and being interviewed on the TV news. If you were in high school now, who do you think you would be friends with? And which group would you fit into? That's a good question. I would want to be friends with a wide variety of groups. When I was in high school, I was alternately the nerd, the band kid, the like sort of just fun kind of athletic group, but not usually like associated with one sports team. I was a journalism kid as well because I worked on the school newspaper. So I felt like I got to interact with lots of different types of people, and if I could do high school over again, I would kind of want to do the same thing because I think it was easy in high school to look at somebody else that I didn't know and associate them with whatever group of people they were with. And that was usually not the case. I think I was easy to sort of assume that people who were on the inside what they look like on the outside, which is not true. So I would want to meet different kinds of people and really just sort of like get to know lots of different social groups. So if I could be friends with anybody, I think I'd kind of want to just go around and sit at like a different table at lunch every day, and which would be weird, but sort of be like, who are you? I want to get to know you, and see how that went. Next question. What is your most favorite bad movie? So bad that it's good. My most favorite bad movie is National Treasure with Nick Cage. Nick Cage is a cinematic genius who has made some incredibly good movies over the course of his career, although most of them happened early on. But Raising Arizona, Moonstruck, Adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas, great movies. He has range as an actor, which is incredible. Nick Cage has also made some horrendous movies purely for the sake of making money. And National Treasure is on the better end of those bad movies. But anytime it's on TV, like on TNT, usually on like a Sunday afternoon, I will put down whatever I'm doing and watch it for the 17th time because it is so bad it's good, to use the words of this question. He's also done some really, really bad movies like Ghost Rider, The Wicker Man, Knowing, horrible movie. So some of those I can't stomach as much, but I will watch National Treasure any day of the week, and I will not defend it as a good movie. If you could have any hairstyle, what would it be? It would be the style known as just hair, period. I think that's all I have to say about that one. I would have liked to have rocked like the long dude hair if I could have done that. I don't think I could, but that's what I would if I had to choose specifically a certain kind of hairstyle. What is the worst thing you have heard students talk about? As a former teenager, I'm not really surprised or shocked when I hear students talk about things, because it's not like as an adult I've forgotten what it was like to be a teenager, but it is sometimes surprising to hear about them. One thing I'm very thankful that I did not have when I was in high school is social media, because that would have been terrifying for me. On one hand, it would have been easier for me to like talk to girls on social media accounts because it would not have been as like direct, but I just think it would have created all of these other headaches and challenges and drama in my life that I'm very thankful I didn't have to do with. So I think the worst thing I've heard students talk about is actually what I have seen or heard take place on social media, where people will say things kind of anonymously or behind a false sort of image of themselves that are just cruel in nature. And that's the part that makes me really sad. It wasn't close friends with him, but somebody in my high school commit suicide as a result of bullying when I was in high school. So I think when I hear that those kinds of things, cyberbullying's happening, that's to me what's really sad and unfortunate, just because I know the impact that can have and the toll that can take on people. So I think that would be my answer for that one. Last question. Have you ever thought two students would make a good couple? All the time. All the time. Teachers see it oftentimes before the students themselves see it. And so, yes, I can't think of a specific example, but it is interesting sometimes when you can almost see the like romantic tension simmering like little lines above students while they sit in class. And you're sitting there, and if you were to call attention to it, it would be awkward and inappropriate usually. And also you need to make sure everybody understands Emily Dickinson. So you can't just digress to the side, but if you could see the little thought bubble going on above our heads, teachers' heads, there would be some interesting things that come out. And it's a good thing you can't, because that would be embarrassing. And I'm glad you cannot. I hope this was enlightening and that you enjoyed it. Thank you for your questions.